2. Drew's 3 rules to telling a story. The illusion of living is not captured by animation alone, though I will say that I think the animation process is the most important part of achieving the goal. After all, this entire book details the quest to discover it. The cartoons were the answer how Coach shared the illusion of living with the world. That being said, once he understood how to make your characters appear real to the eye, need to make them appear real to the soul. This comes from the story you're telling and the characters you choose to create. The rules are as follows. 1. Create dynamic personalities. 2. Choose the right details to tell. 3. Structure or dimensions. Rule 1. Create dynamic personalities. Before animating anything, we need to know what to animate, or who. I like to go back to what I share about classic vaudeville. The acts were most popular and the most dynamic were the ones that were the easiest to relate to and understood the character types. We call them the smart one, the stupid one, the strong one, the sneaky one. These characters have followed very basic rules, and we know the time and time again how they were going to behave in any given situation. It is predictability of their behavior that made it funny. The characters may be comforting, a new situation that and we the audience were unfamiliar with, but we the audience were always one step ahead, and that made the creation of the moments of all the more thrilling. And that made it so real. We like to think that as humans and not characters, we are complicated and unique, but ultimately we break down into types. Kyle was rich and arrogant. Detective Sickler was clever and judgmental. Lottie is sweet and hopeful. Ultimately, it is very easy for me, Joey, to know how to interrogate with them, to get what I needed from them, because I could see where their act was going. I got to the end before they did. People want to see themselves as characters, and yet they don't realize they are characters themselves. So pick a strong type, a solid one thing that makes this character who they are, and pick some friends with the different personality types so there is always some shade of conflict. Conflict is always exciting as they already illustrated. In this case, Bendy, we know we need someone he had to frustrate someone. The less devilish spirit, not easily an angel, though he did create one as well, but fully an opposite. And that was Boris. All Boris wanted was to eat and be left in peace. All we all know, Bendy will never let him. The butcher game were another excellent boy. They stopped at nothing to get back at Bendy for his hygienes and took revenge very seriously. Bendy takes nothing seriously, so he will always win, even when it seems possible with 3 against 1. Rule 2. Choose the right details to tell. As stated before, Rule 3 for animation. If I told you about my day today in every detail, even though there are a lot of interesting things that happen, we'll still find it boring. That's because living life and observing life are not the same thing. This is where we bring in the impressionist painter's idea again. Just like how they painted what they saw and what necessary there, how they painted the impressions of the image. So to retell the impression of the story, we don't need all the details. We certainly don't need the story to begin the moment of a character wakes up. It is our job to create the illusion of living, but only showing the parts that matter to the story. Benny's walking down the street to the shop. We don't need to see them. Put the shoes on that morning. Boris's exciting picnic. We don't need to see the practice. Start the story just before the conflict begins. Wrap it up after the climax. Be quick, ruthless with the details. Choose to include or not. They said less is more, but less is also more real. Rule 3. Structure for dynamism. With the structure of something dynamic, this plays into Rule 2 of knowing what to include and what not to. Of course, there is also a very basic story structure that more people know about than just me. In this particular case, it isn't about illusion of living philosophy, and is rather one of the rare instances where you can look into other creators doing the same thing. There is nothing wrong with looking at the old masters, as we already with artists and novelists. The wisest of man know that there are wiser out there. In this case, there's a very basic and tried-tested structure to storytelling that you probably know about. In every movie, play, radio play, book, and comic strip, you'll see it. And it goes like this. First, you have an incident. Something happens to get the story going. When you have what we call the rising action, as the conflict gets more heated and extreme, then you have the climax, the moment of truth, the solution to the whole story. Then at the end, a little moment to come after the story to ground the audience once again. Use this try and tested structure, and you'll never be less strained, and your audience will love you for it. There you have it, some tips for you truly that will change the way you tell your stories forever. To go even more in depth will require the writing of the whole new book, and who knows, maybe in the future that will happen, but for now, this will get you started on the right path if you trust me, which I know you do.